Pixel 7. That's right, I bought a new phone. I dropped my Moto G Power 2020 at work the other day and completely bricked it. It turned off and would not turn on again. In fact, it was off the whole day and getting rather warm. So something clearly shorted out, possibly the battery or something on the motherboard. I'm not sure. Fully charged and just would not turn on at all. Now, honestly, for me, it wasn't a huge loss. I paid $280 Canadian for this phone 2.5 years ago. So for me, $280, and I got 2.5 years out of it. I'm fine with that. Doesn't owe me anything. It did everything I needed it to do. It was a perfectly fine phone for my use. As I said in the review for this phone, I'm not a heavy user. I don't do any gaming. I don't do a lot of multitasking. For me, basic phone functions and maybe watching YouTube or scrolling Facebook or Reddit is about the most use I get out of a phone. Things I liked about this phone: had a big battery in it, and it would go about 2 days for me. Easily it would go 2 days. It also had a fairly nice screen. It was 1080p IPS, and a headphone jack. Had a headphone jack on it. So most new phones today don't have a headphone jack, including the one that I'm replacing it with. I'm not a phone reviewer. I said that when I reviewed this phone. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I can tell you, coming from this phone to this phone, again, all the things that I like better and the things that I don't like. Obviously, this is a faster phone than the phone it's replacing. This has got 8 gigs of RAM. This had 4 gigs of RAM. This has got, Google's, what do they call it? T2 or something or other. Google's own chip. Obviously, it's ARM-based, but it's Google's own design, and it has some of their own, kind of AI acceleration stuff in there. Fingerprint reader is under the screen on this one. So on this phone, the fingerprint reader was on the back, so you'd use your index finger. But on this one, it's under the screen, and actually you can see there it didn't pick it up. It will usually pick it up on the first try. Sometimes, though, it does take a second try, I've found. But yeah, it's under the screen, which is a little bit different. That's kind of cool that they can do that. But yeah, this isn't the fastest phone on the market, but it's a heck of a lot faster than the one that it's replacing. I will open up Photos, and I will go back. I will open up YouTube, and I will go back, and I will open up Reddit. And I will go back. And if we swipe up and hold, there's everything that I have open on it. So Facebook there. And we go back to YouTube. The screen on this is 1080p OLED. I believe it's 1080p. It might be 1440p. I don't even know. I think it's 1080p. I think the Pro is 1440p. But it is an OLED screen. So yeah, it's an OLED screen. It goes up to 90 hertz. I honestly don't care about that. If it was 60 hertz, 90 hertz, that's not really a thing that I've ever cared about. Things I do care about that are better than the old phone, well, the camera. The camera is much faster. Its focus is better. It's got a wide-angle lens, which isn't honestly that much wider. It's a 0.7 crop. I kind of wish it was more like a 0.5 or 0.4. It doesn't seem like it's that much wider than the 1x lens. And then it also gives you a 2x zoom, which is a crop zoom on the sensor, but it works really well. It's still got almost full clarity. You can't really tell that you're cropping, so I can basically treat that like it is a true 2x optical zoom. And with the image stabilization that this has, it just feels good. It feels smooth, even in a 2x zoom with the video. You can see or feel, at least when you're holding it in hand, that there is some image stabilization there and it's doing something. But yeah, it takes really good photos. It takes really good video. No surprise there. I think most people know that. The Pixels are just known for having a really good camera. Yeah, it's always better with this. The low light conditions are always better. The color reproduction is more accurate, and it's faster. So without a doubt, the camera is a much, much better camera. The Pixels are known to have a good camera, so no surprise there. Oh, yeah, one cool thing. So for me with the photos, so my old phone was still fairly close to vanilla Android. It had some Motorola stuff implemented in there, but as far as I know, the camera app and obviously the Google Photos app is just stock Google. And there was certain features in the Google Photo apps when I would go to edit a photo that would be behind a locked paywall. So blurring out the background, face sharpening, and what was the other one? There's like a dynamic where it tries to do like an HDR thing and really bring out the shadows and the colors in your photo. The cool thing is on this phone, because it's a Pixel, they give you those options for free. So on this picture, for example, I can go to edit. Now this picture was taken on my old phone. This picture was taken on my Motorola, but obviously all my pictures are saved to my Google account and my Google Photos, and that's the same. So on here, like, we have the dynamic, and so you can see that really brings out the colors. It really brings out the shadows on a photo that's too dark. I'll maybe show you that. But the portrait, you see how it blurred the background there? There's before, and there's after. And again, that's on a photo that wasn't even taken on this phone. I can go back and do that. I can hit save. Actually, we'll do the, did I do the dynamic? Whatever, I'll hit save there. And now we have a saved version of the original, and one with the blurred background, and it does a really good job. Like, if you look at the hair, it does as good of a job, I think, as if you took the photo with like an iPhone in portrait mode. And again, this is a photo that wasn't even taken on this phone, so the fact I can go back and do that is pretty cool. I'm going to show you, like I said, images that have, so there you go. You can see like the floor, right? You can barely see the floor, and when we hit dynamic, it really brings out the shadows, but, you know, keeps a lot of detail in the highlights and bumps the color up a little bit. The enhance, yeah, see, before I could always do enhance. And enhance on this picture, honestly, it kind of makes it look worse. But the dynamic was always, again, behind a paywall on my old phone. You had to pay a monthly or yearly, you know, Google subscription thing. Here's another photo here. So this one is the original. And I did the dynamic and the blur background, and it just made a huge difference. And again, it does a really good job blurring the background, and the dynamic really brought out the color in my skin without looking unnatural. The other nice thing about this phone, being that it's a Google phone, it's a Pixel, it's running the latest Android 13. And, you know, it has a lot of specific Google kind of AI assistant features that some people might like. It has really, really good, like, you know, voice to text. It can do these things where if you're on hold on a phone call, you can put the phone down and it will let you know when it comes off hold. Or if you're in calling like a company and they have like you know, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. It'll try and automate some of that stuff for you, apparently. I haven't tried that, and that's not usually the kind of thing, again, I care about. I'm not on the phone that much. I'm not calling businesses that often. I paid $5.99 Canadian for this phone, which is an okay price for what it is. $5.99 Canadian. I will put how much that is in US dollars on the screen. That's a good price for the phone and for what it is, I would say, but it is the most that I've ever paid for a phone. Again, because I'm such a light and basic user, I would typically buy, you know, $300 phones. And part of my reasoning is I don't need the extra power, and if I drop the phone and it breaks, it's not nearly as devastating. Now that I have a $600 phone, this is the most expensive phone that I've ever had. And so obviously I'm very paranoid if I drop this and break it. It's not the same as, you know, a $200 or $300 phone. We're talking $600. I don't have a case for it yet. Obviously, I just got the phone. I've got a case on order. So for the next few days, while I'm waiting for that case to come in, I'm going to have to be extremely careful with it. But yeah, again, I'm still a pretty simple user. So this phone is everything I need and then some. The OLED screen is nice, although the screen on this was pretty decent. And they're similar size. I think the phone's a hair bigger. The old phone was a hair bigger, but the bezels were a hair bigger. So I think, I can't turn this on because it's dead as a doorknob, but yeah, I think the screen size is pretty similar. But did I need an OLED screen? No. Is it nice? I guess. Obviously blacks on an OLED, you know. So when you're watching a video, and if we go to like full screen, you know, the screen's wider than 16 by 9, as most modern phones are. I think it's 21 by 9, I think. We can punch it in, and we can go all the way to the corners, and obviously the hole punch out for the front-facing cameras there. But when you're watching it in original, it's native 16 by 9. You know, these black bars on the side are black. Like can't really actually see. You can kind of see the cutout, the camera there, the lens, because the lens is reflecting. But like you can't really see where the screen starts or stops, I guess. So, and especially again if you're watching this in a dark room, you know, it's not going to look like you're missing anything on the sides. It's not going to look like that's part of the screen, I guess. So yeah, the OLED's nice. Again, not necessary. 8 gigs of RAM is nice. Again, not necessary. The video on this phone I thought was okay. Obviously, it's a little better on this. That's nice. The photos, though, are a lot better. But yeah, I lost the headphone jack. I gained wireless charging, so this phone did not have wireless charging. So I've gained wireless charging, but I've lost battery life for sure. This was like a 2-day phone. This is definitely a 1-day phone for the average user. And I lost the headphone jack, so that kind of sucks because in my car I did use the auxiliary input. The color, so I bought the lemongrass, they call it, color. And it's not really as saturated as every single picture online makes it look out to be. Like even the picture on the box is more green or yellow saturated than the phone is in person. So that's exactly how every picture online looks compared to in person. When I pulled this out of the box in person, I initially thought I got the wrong one. I thought I got the white one. It's clearly not white when you see it next to something white. But it's nowhere near as saturated as, you know, every picture online makes it look. Another complaint that like professional phone reviewers have with this phone, again, people who have had experience with lots of different phones, is that this is quote unquote slow charging. It takes about 2 hours to fully charge this phone. To me, that's not a big deal. 95% of the time, I'm charging the phone overnight. And like I've said before, if it takes 2 hours or 6 hours, I don't really care if it's charging overnight. In fact, the slower it charges, the better that is for the battery. There are some phones that they sell in China. Huawei, I believe, makes one that is like 200 watts charging. Most phones now are 30 to 60 watts. 200 watts is insane. Like, there's this phone they sell in China that they don't sell in North America that it's got, like, I think it has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in it, and it can fully charge it in, like, 20 minutes. And if you do that all the time, you will absolutely shorten the lifespan of that battery. So yeah, Pixel 7. You know, from my point of view, it's a great phone. I've watched a lot of reviews on it. Most reviews are pretty positive. I think MKBHD kind of summed it up the best in that the phone might not have the best hardware. Like, it's not the fastest processor. It's not the best screen. It's not the fastest charging, but what it is the best at is the software side of things. It's vanilla Android, it's Pixel phone, it's going to have the latest updates for 5 years. And a lot of that Google AI assisted stuff can kind of help in some ways make up. For example, the camera sensor in this is nowhere near the best camera sensor that's in other phones. But the Google Pixel takes some of the best pictures out of any smartphone. And that's because their software is better. The ability to calibrate the colors coming off the sensor and make them look natural, the ability to sharpen a picture and get detail out of it without over sharpening. You know, how fast can you take multiple pictures and then pick the best one? Because that's what smartphones do, right? And that really sums this phone up. It's not the best hardware, but it's probably the best software, at least as far as Android phones go. And yeah, so that's it. I got to get out of here. Obviously, my camera already died. And so, yeah, that's it anyways. I'm done. See you later.